The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show. Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we are ready to bring you some feel good vibes this morning. Our feel good topic of the day is a discussion on how we can improve the communication between men and women on this island. And our feel good vibe of the day features a local artist, Bricks. Before we get into all of that, let's see who is tuned in with us as we get started with our feel good warm up of the day. I see we have Sean Smith. Good morning to you, Sean Smith, as well as Kathy Rogers, who is back with us for episode 3 in her Watching Good Day Bermuda. So welcome back, Kathy. And if you're just joining us in the comments, let us know that you're tuned in with us. Which platform are you tuned in? Where are you watching us from? As Jackie and I are going to get the conversation started with our feel good warm-up question. So there's been a lot of buzz going on around on Twitter, and there have just been so many topics that Jackie and I could pull from today. But this one was really important to both Jackie and I to talk about. So we kind of want to ask the audience, do you think a person can change their inappropriate behavior over time? And it will tie into our feel good topic of the day, so make sure you don't go anywhere. Jackie, I know you kind of gave me your answer offline beforehand, but do you think if a person has, been inappropriate, whether in public or private, do you think that they can change over time?
If they want to. I mean, you have to have some type of self-awareness, right? So if you want to be educated, if you actually want to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, a new person? Like, I don't.
If you want
explain
to.
Explain what you mean, and maybe I can help you find the word.
It's not going to happen right now.
Because it's too early. I can't remember the word. I don't know what I want to say.
It's going to come to me at like 11:59.
And we're going to tweet it. It'll be fine.
No, I believe that everybody has the power to change if they want to. If you don't care, if you don't want to, then you're not going to change. If you don't see anything that's wrong with your behavior and your actions, then you're just going to go about business. And it also depends on who's in your circle, who's around you. If your friends aren't holding you accountable, if they're not putting you back in your place, then if you're all just as ignorant, then you're just going to keep going about your business doing exactly what you do because you see nothing wrong with your behavior.
Right. I agree that you can definitely change over time. I think, as you mentioned, like the person has to want to change, because just because you want someone to change or you think someone should change their behavior, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to actually do it, because if they don't care to change, they might not even see anything wrong with their behavior.
Exactly.
Right? And that's also, like, we say inappropriate behavior, and it's a very broad and somewhat vague kind of description. But if someone behaves a certain way and they continue that and no one shares with them that it's inappropriate or why it's inappropriate or how it makes them feel, then to that person, they don't have to change. And I think that's kind of what I also wanted to talk about. So let us know in the comments if you think someone can change their inappropriate behavior over time, because our feel good topic of the day is going to be around, how men and women communicate on this island specifically, because it is very interesting out here in these Bermuda shores, and we are going to get into that really quickly. Jack, how would you define inappropriate behavior? So, like, if we're talking about someone is going to change their inappropriate behavior, or if they can do it over time, what for you would be inappropriate behavior?
Well, I know the topic that we're going with. And I think we probably should have to specify.
We're going to do that right now. Yeah.
Because it's mainly the actions of men when women are walking down the street, sitting on a stoop, minding their own business. So inappropriate behavior is probably me. Gosh, let me just give you one example. Yes, I am riding to work. I'm going to give you an example. I've got a million examples, but this is one that has irritated me for years, and I can never get, I can't get past it because I just don't understand the entitlement, I guess, or the whatever. I'm riding to work and I stop at Paget Lights and I'm in my tennis clothes because I'm a tennis coach. So I'm in tennis clothes. So that means my shorts, well, actually I was wearing a skirt that day. And these two gentlemen, I probably shouldn't even use the word gentlemen, but these two males ride up on the bike next to me at the lights. And one proceeds to say, oh, you have amazing skin. You have nice legs, and reaches over to try to touch me. Exactly. That is just the most inappropriate behavior. I have times where I'm walking down the street and I'm minding my own business, and there's things called manners. So me saying good afternoon is not an invitation to sexually harass me.
And so now you're point.
So now I'm walking down down Front Street, trying to go do whatever errand I'm doing, and now I have you tailgating me, harassing me, trying to get my name, trying to get my number. Where have you been all my life? I don't know you. That's too much. It's very uncomfortable. And the gentlemen that are with you are just as abrasive with it as well. Like, guys, come on.
Yes, I actually want to bring this comment.
Now all of a sudden we're overreacting.
Yeah, I want to bring this comment in from Sean Smith. He says inappropriate behavior is subjective unless it comes down to sexual harassment. And I actually want to ask the audience, like, how would you define inappropriate behavior? Because people say it is subjective, and yes, it is. I'm the subject. And so if you are acting towards me in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable, it's inappropriate. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual in nature. It could just be you are in my space and I have moved away. I'm trying to continue to move away, but you constantly keep coming in my space to be next to me. That to me could be considered inappropriate. It could also be like, how you talk to someone based on your role. And I actually want to talk about this. I want to talk about this also with tomorrow's guest. Hopefully we can get into it. But recently there was a presser, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter after the presser saying that the way that the government speak to Trevor in the press conferences is in a condescending tone. That could be considered inappropriate behavior from a perspective of just because you have an authority over the nation because you were elected in, doesn't mean that because you're tired of Trevor's questions that you now get the right to talk to him in such a manner. And his job is not investigative journalism, but like he's a journalist. So, and one of his duties in my eye is to kind of get the answers that the public are asking. And sure, he may word it in such a way based on like all the questions that he gets, and it may come across as being like antagonizing. But I mean, if people are asking him the same question over and over, don't shoot the messenger. I feel like that could be considered inappropriate behavior. And I feel like, as Sean mentioned, it is subjective. And if the subject feels like they're being treated inappropriately, then by all means, I definitely think that, it should be talked about. I don't think it gets talked about as often because there is somewhat of a taboo around authority versus non-authority, men versus women. What's another?
Because they hold a certain amount of authority over us. They have to have a certain amount of respect given to them. But honestly, like what you were saying, we elected them in, and as Jamal Hartman always says, I shouldn't say work for us, but we have to hold them accountable. So if we have questions that need answers and we are going to Trevor or to any other person that has the opportunity to ask questions, you can't talk down. So you're actually talking down to the nation. And they have to realize that. But
agreed. We're actually going to take a quick commercial break before we get into our feel-good topic of the day, which is a discussion on how men and women can communicate better on the island. So make sure you stay tuned to Good Day Bermuda.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jacky Lambert, and today's feel good topic of the day is how can men and women on the island communicate better? So Jacky did share an example of what it is that we're basically talking about. So Jack, I actually want to go a little bit more into detail around this experience. So let's just, I guess, set the scene for the audience. Why this particular topic? Why are we kind of, taking a stance, I guess you could say, taking a stance on this particular topic, because we're both women. But what else is it about the topic for us?
It's something that needs to be said because we see it on social media all the time. It's not just the two of us that are going through it. It's a bunch of us. I'm pretty sure that every single female out there can say that they have been made feel uncomfortable by at least one man on this island. And we always say that there's no change without education. So we have to have this conversation to make sure that people know that what they're doing is actually inappropriate. If not, there's never going to be a change because they're never going to see anything wrong with it, because they're just going to walk down the street. They're not being held accountable. They're not being told that what they're doing is wrong. So in their eyes, it's perfectly okay. And it's not. It's not. There's no reason that I have to be kind to somebody that is making me feel uncomfortable just to make sure that I get to where my final destination safely. Because there have been times where I've kindly and gently turned somebody down, and now they're calling me out my name. And I've had men try to fight me. I'm still to this day trying to figure out why, if I'm saying no, thank you, I appreciate it, yes, thank you, but no thank you. And then now I'm a female dog. I should go jump off a cliff. Thankfully, there's water around, so jumping off a cliff is very inviting, to be honest. But I shouldn't have to sit there and be treated like this, and nobody defends me because nobody thinks it's wrong. Well, I know there's people out there that think it's wrong, but
we don't speak up. So I actually want to bring in this comment from Sheldon Jens. He says, it sounds to me like the topic is focusing on abuse of power, be it social, political, otherwise. It's not inappropriate behavior, it's abuse. We should call it what it is. And I agree. I guess Jacky and I were, trying to be politically correct from our perspective of, Sean Smith pointed out, it's subjective. So we don't want to say that what we think is inappropriate behavior is what someone else deems inappropriate behavior. But I mean, to Sheldon's point, it is abuse, right? And so let's talk about that, because as Jacky just mentioned, technically she was abused. Whether the person believes that they were abusing her or not is kind of a moot point. But if that type of social interaction happens often, from the audience perspective, have you seen that happen before? Have you seen a female or even a young person, male or female, have you seen someone in a situation where it could be abusive and not said anything? And why didn't you say anything? I know for being the subject of such interactions, it's very scary, the thoughts that go through your head, because you don't know which reaction you're going to get based on what you say. If you're nice and you try to politely decline an invitation, or try to just, go on the other side of the street, or just not engage with the person, you don't know if they're gonna run up behind you and try to do something to you. So from being the subject perspective,
Bermuda's small.
You don't know if they're watching, okay, where is she going after this? Is she going to turn down that street? Okay, she went into that building. Is that her home? Is that, her family home? Does she live there by herself? All of these different things are going through your head as the subject. And you just I just want to go on my run. I just want to go on my run. I just want to be unbothered, be left alone. And it can be low-key scary. And we talk about Bermuda doesn't have as much violence as other parts of the world. However, and there was a tweet I wanted to bring into the conversation, Jack. I forgot about that. There was a young lady who was in the park, and she said 2 guys rolled up on her And they basically said that she told him that she had a boyfriend, so she was in a relationship. And the gentleman proceeded to say, they don't care, we rape girls like you. And I was like, that's what we say in real life. And then, so we have a comment here from Michael Anthony Messenger.
I think what you're asking is a culture change. There are a lot of things that are just accepted because it's Bermudian.
Let's talk about that. So I think you had a point, Jack, about the situation in the park. Jack's like, I have all the points. I got all the things to say. I had nothing to say at all.
We women use having a boyfriend as a way to get ourselves out of things safely, because saying no just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I've used, I have a boyfriend. I have a girlfriend. I've used, no, thank you. I've gotten up and walked away. But at what point does no actually hold power to you? Like, and then you're going to sit here and say that you rape girls like that? Rape. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. This is just like a release. Rape. Like, people go to jail for that.
And so actually I want to bring in this comment from Sean Smith. He says, I think he means what happened or what's up with Jackie, that experience. It was sexual harassment, which is an offense under the law. Those individuals should have been reported to the police. If it happened in the workplace, then to HR manager. And I think what's interesting about that is you've heard the stories where you will report, you will give the best description you can give. Eyewitness descriptions are not always the best, because I forget what the heck I wore yesterday to work, let alone what I'm wearing today. And so I think one of the things that is an issue here too is this whole snitching culture. It's like, if you report something to the police, you're now labeled as someone who wants to get people in trouble. Whether they did the wrong thing or not is irrelevant. It's, you call the police and then now you're labeled as a snitch, or you go through the process of trying to get that person prosecuted. And now that person's friend or family or whoever else that thinks that they didn't do anything wrong is looking at you sideways. And now you have this Romeo and Juliet type of situation where families are going against each other because they're 100% behind this person, that whether they think that action was inappropriate or not, they're like, that's my person of my family, and so I'm going to stand behind that person. And then you have, the female on the other side who's asking for help, trying to find other ways to keep herself safe, doing whatever it is deemed to be the right thing to do, and then being left out in the cold in some situations. And it's kind of like, at what point are we going to say, okay, we need to just have a cultural shift? And what does that look like for us? Like, what does it, is it calling the people out when they do it? Is it making them feel uncomfortable? Is it calling the police and asking the police to help? But then if the police are helping, are we not, like, I haven't seen many cases where men or women have been pulled to the carpet and made to feel embarrassed about what they're doing. I don't know. Maybe I also don't look at the court side of the newspaper. I don't read the paper. So let me stop playing. I don't read that newspaper, but I do check it out. I do check out Burn News Online. I want to bring in this comment here from Carmen Mitchell and Shaq.
When I was out walking one morning a number of years ago, I had a police officer come up beside me, ask me, did I feel safe? I did, until he asked the question.
And that's another interesting thing too, right? Because I've actually never really had police engage with me like that. Have you?
I'm thinking, and I don't. Nah.
And I think that's actually interesting that a police officer thought to do that, because that does kind of make you feel like, okay, maybe I can go to the police because maybe they do care about my safety.
I don't know. It's something about the way maybe I'm reading into it wrong, but it it's almost like he is trying to say, like, you're sure you want to be running at this hour?
Right. Okay. That's another good point. So maybe let us know, Carmen. Because she said she felt safe up until he asked that question.
Right.
So then, like, what was it about the question and at the time of the day that maybe made you feel like, all right, now I feel a little bit uneasy. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this first thing in the morning. And then, so for anyone else that's watching, if you're just joining us, Jack and I are talking about how we can improve the communication between men and women on the island. Really and truly, it ended up starting around us labeling it as inappropriate behavior. But to Sheldon Jones's point, one of our audience members, it's actually a form of abuse. And then let's switch back to the conversation around, our governments having this power or authority over us. And do we feel like they are abusing us in some situations? Like not everyone, that's an exaggeration. Let me take that back. There are a number of people on the island who do not agree with the restrictions. There are a number of people who do not agree with the division that has come through the vaccinated versus unvaccinated. There are a number of people who do not want to wear masks anymore. They would like to just go into the store, unmasked, unbothered, and live their best life. So do you think that our government is extending or abusing their power? And if so, like, to what degree? I think I would love to hear Jackie's opinion, but I do want to give the audience an opportunity to join us in this conversation as well. So let us know in the comments, have you witnessed abuse, whether it's social, political? I think the other one Sheldon mentioned was, let's scroll back up to see. Oh, otherwise. He just says social, political, or otherwise. So let us know in the comments if you have recently seen any abuse, and like, what are some of the ways that you have either defended the person that was being abused or, provided help. I want to know Jackie's opinion on whether she thinks government's abusing us, though.
I feel like you should go first, honestly.
I feel like I was talking for a while, but I can go first. I think that it's a thin line of what they're doing to have public health guidelines to keep the spread down, because I do agree. I do not think that we want to get to a place where we have to go back into another lockdown and roll back all of the restrictions that we have to kind of make it feel like we don't have a life. So I do think it's a very thin line. I do feel like the way that they are presented in some of the press conferences and how they speak to people can come across as just an attempt to like make the other person look bad because they feel like people are trying to make them look bad. And I feel like it's a tit for tat thing. And at this stage, it's beginning to get very tiring. It's beginning to get like, okay, well, this is just the norm of the pressers at this point. Like, I'm gonna just watch the replay and go through the questions, because I could just read the statement and see what you're saying, but it's really during the questions that you kind of see that interaction. So I think it's a very thin line. I think it's it reads as trying to not, they just don't want to be, it feels like they don't want to be caught out at the end of the day. So whatever they can do to not get caught out, they're going to do it.
I feel like they're that parent that is sick of repeating themselves. And they're like, you know what? Fine. This is the rule. This is what we're going to do. And you know how you start off and you're just like, all right, guys, so this is what we're going to do. And it's going to work. Okay, guys, I already told you this is what we're going to try and do because this is uncharted waters. So let's try and work together. Okay, you don't want to work together? Well, this is what we're doing. Oh, you're still not understanding that this is what we have to do to try and get past it. No, not everything that the government is implementing makes sense, because I don't understand why unvaccinated people have to sit in a hotel for 14 days just to find out that they're negative, but vaccinated people that still can catch the virus as well as transmit the virus. You have children that can catch the virus, transmit the virus, do not have to go through the same process. So that's where the division comes in, because you have people that don't want to take the vaccine. You have people that don't really care. And then you have those that are just like, you know what, whatever, inject me because I need to go back to living my life. But at some point they have to remember that they fought to get elected. So you fought to...
Did they fight? Did they?
Well, sorry. You went forth to try to get elected. If anybody else had tried to do a little bit better, it would have been a fight. But you know,
it would have been a little bit of a battle.
They put themselves forward to be in charge. So they knew what was coming. I mean, you're Bermudian. You know that we're we're testy. We're going to test all the borders.
Yeah.
So the condescending tone, absolutely. But we all have that condescending tone after repeating ourselves 365 days a year, and we're past that.
Yeah, agreed. I actually want to bring in this comment from Sean Smith. He said he personally delayed his return to Bermuda based on the current policy of having to quarantine for 14 days if you're unvaccinated, if you're an unvaccinated person versus a vaccinated person. And I actually want to bring into the conversation too, if you're unvaccinated, it doesn't always have to be that you made the choice. You could just not for health reasons be able to vaccinate. And so it's even like there's like 3 different pockets of people, and then there's like 3 different rules for the 3 different pockets of people, which in a normal situation that makes sense because there will be different rules for different people. Totally agree. Like middle school children that get different rules than high school children versus primary school children. That's kind of, we get that. The divide comes in when it's like it changes so frequently based on your status. Like at one point everyone was on the same playing field. Vaccine entered the chat. All right, now we have to separate it. And the way that it was presented to the public felt like a form of abuse, to be honest. I can say that. It definitely felt like if you want to go back to what we used to do, get you a vaccine. And then we switched back to, okay, it's your personal choice. If you want to make the decision to not get the vaccine, that's okay. I do want to bring in this comment from Sonia Clark. She said, Jack, you're so on point.
Thank you.
And I agree. I absolutely agree. So we have this comment from WK Wicked Llama. I'm assuming that means Wicked Llama because WKD is Wicked, right? So we're gonna go with that. He or she says it is an easily transmittable disease. There are other jurisdictions that are more restrictive. People are looking for the perfect solution. I disagree. I don't think people are looking for the perfect solution. I just think people are looking for a consistent solution. I feel like, and I'll speak for myself. I just want the messaging to be consistent across the board. Every time it changes, the inconsistency comes into the conversation, and then it opens them up to yet another opportunity for people to get mad. It's either we're going to say there's one set of rules for unvaccinated, there's one set of rules for vaccinated, and we're going to stop playing this game, or we're going to have one set of rules for everyone because anyone can transmit the disease. Like regardless of your status, regardless of your vaccine status, you can pass it. This whole low level versus high level. What does that mean? Just because you don't get the effects of the coronavirus from a high level, but you can pass it on to an unvaccinated person who can then be highly susceptible to all of the symptoms of the disease. That I feel like by continuing to separate this disease into like all of these little pockets, it's only making it more difficult for people to understand the benefit of the vaccine or the benefit of choosing to go about it a natural way that they may choose to go about it. It's like the more you give us information that is contradicting itself, the easier it is for people to find a problem with what it is you're talking about. So I want to bring in this comment, Jack, from Sean Smith.
A vaccinated person can be positive and go home. An unvaccinated person can have a negative result and have to quarantine. How is that fair? Exactly. How is it fair? Mm-hmm. And we all know exactly what this is for. You want to make sure that we get to that herd immunity. But then you have the case
community protection. We don't use herd because people out there don't want to be considered cheap. Nah, Jackie, they don't want to be considered cheap. Nah, it's community protection.
Community protection. There's like 5 versions of it. But basically, you want to get to a certain percentage of people that are vaccinated, but then you also don't want to test for antibodies. Like it's a lot of information that they're giving, but they're not giving it fully. They're giving it in a way to
let's call it spade a spade. They're giving the information so high level and using such vernacular jargon from the medical and scientific space that it's difficult for the person that didn't study science, that didn't finish school, that doesn't even like science to really understand what it is that's being presented to them. So if you are talking to me in like the compound of what coronavirus is, I didn't like chemistry. I got a C. I was grateful to get that C because I was passing grade, and I said, peace, I will not be back. So if I don't like science, if someone doesn't really like this topic, but they want to make an informed decision and you're giving them information in such a way that they walk away with more questions than answers, of course they're going to come at you with oh, wow, the government's trying to do this and the scientists are trying to do that. Of course they're going to be upset.
I just keep asking questions and then they get irritated.
And then they start to get irritated. They use the condescending tone.
That's your fault because now you're more educated than me, and then I'm trying to get up to speed. But
yeah,
there's that.
We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with more on our feel good topic of the day. So make sure you do not go anywhere. You are watching Good Day Bermuda.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. Make sure that you give us a care reaction if you're watching on Facebook. That is definitely Jackie and I's favorite. Or you can pick whichever reaction is yours. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. And to all of our tweets over there on Twitter, make sure you run up the cards. We are going to get into our feel good vibe of the day very shortly, but we want to continue with the conversation around all things inappropriate and abusive in Bermuda. I did have a comment here from, I believe it was Carmen Mitchell-Jones, Jack, that I wanted to bring into the conversation.
With COVID, there has been too much inconsistency and lack of accountability. The more consistent you are, the more leeway a person will take. Other people's choices should not impact me negatively. Agreed?
Agreed. And then she has this follow-up comment.
The standards and rules for the schools, the students, the teachers in them are higher than for the general public. It's unfair.
And that's an interesting point too, right? Because when you think about it, those are technically some of our more vulnerable population from a perspective of they interact with way more people on a daily basis. They're I don't really interact with that many people because I work from home primarily. And then even when I go into the office, I'm either just going on the ferry, going straight to work. I'm in my little cubicle. I don't have to see people if I don't want to. And there is an opportunity for us to physically distance ourselves. So the likelihood of me being in a close contact space is not that high compared to those that are in education in general. And even in our, our nursing homes and our clinics and stuff like that. So I feel like they definitely get the brunt of it when it comes to honestly, with this whole pandemic, if you've been a teacher or a student, I feel for you. It has not been easy for y'all. I want to bring in this comment from Sonia, Clark, Jack.
I don't know what the TTT is, but my reality has become I speak out publicly about what I want or think. Then I become a part of the problem and conflict. I truly believe conflicts with the intent to protect us, an entire country, good or bad. Mental health is important to me.
Agreed.
I always speak out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind if I get in trouble. I mean, what you going to educate me on why I'm wrong? That's fine.
And I think if people feel like someone is wrong or right, kind of irrelevant, mm-hmm. If you have the information that will give that person the opportunity to change their mind, if they do recognize, okay, well, maybe I did look at that incorrectly, or maybe I was using what I was told by someone who's not in the space, and then I have information from someone in the space. This information now makes sense to me. Okay, if I would just like to share my opinion, that's on me. If I feel like, okay, whatever, I don't agree with that anymore either, or I don't agree with that anyway, so I'm going to keep continuing to go down my path. It's presenting the information in a way that makes it easy for people to digest. I think that's, for me, probably one of the biggest issues. It's it's been so high level, and we're asking people to research something that they don't even know if it's right or wrong. Fake news comes into the conversation because anyone can put out an article about coronavirus right now if they wanted to. We could start a whole website right now and put out whatever we wanted about coronavirus. Does that mean Jackie and I are experts in coronavirus? No. Because Jackie and I aren't.
I'm not.
I want to bring in this comment from Rashida Garvin. She says, we need to respect individual people's choice on whether they decide to get vaccinated or not, and we have to learn to live with it and stop inconveniencing people because they didn't get the vaccine. What is the way forward with COVID, and how can we get on with life? I agree. I think that's also kind of where it becomes slightly abusive, because it feels like we're just circling around coronavirus, unvaccinated versus vaccinated, just because
they only gave you one option. Well, yeah, either.
I mean, when you really think about it, when you really think about it, you either don't travel, or if you travel, you have to do a mandatory quarantine in one of these 7 hotels, which if you look at the price for you to be there for 14 days, you might as well pay rent unless you get an exemption. And then getting an exemption then puts the doctors and the medical profession in between a rock and a hard place, because people are going to probably use that as their reason. Like, I don't want to pay more than what I pay in rent or my mortgage just to quarantine. Like, so now you have an issue with, medical professionals and their patients trying to like they maybe want to hear the information from their doctor, but they're like, no, doc, yeah, maybe not today. Miss me with that. Just, can I get an exemption? What do I have to do to get my exemption? And then
just sign on the dotted line.
it just makes it even more complicated. I do agree that we need to get to a space where we can move beyond the pandemic, where we're moving back to the business at hand. Like, we have a debt that is not going to get paid down in Jacky and I's lifetime. For those of you that are watching, you can let us know if you think that that's going to get paid down in your lifetime. And it's just, it feels like this
plays the lottery.
And
but we don't believe in gambling, so there's that.
So it's like, okay, so how are we going to get to move beyond this pandemic if we're so focused on keeping the restrictions? And granted, yes, there are Caribbean cousins that are doing way more restrictive measures than we are. And I think it's wise for us to see what they're doing and see what they're doing right and see what they're doing wrong. And that's across the board. Like, it's not just, there's been nations that have been able to, quote unquote, eradicate the virus. Like, they haven't had any new cases and they're open to an extent. So what did they do? What can we implement anything that they've done? I feel like we've kind of left it to what the Western side of the world is doing, and we haven't gone to what the Eastern side of the world is doing. And mind you, there have been some places in the East that didn't get it right, but there have been places that got it really right. So I think we need to maybe switch where we're looking, switch where we're getting our information from. Like, maybe we're getting it from the wrong people. I want to bring in this comment from Sean Smith Jack before we get into our feel good vibe of the day.
In 2 years, roughly 1% to 4% of the population has tested positive for COVID. Out of the 98 to 99% has recovered. So how do governments come up with their policies with these results? Government website, where I got the numbers.
And that's interesting too, right? Because you hear more about the people that I feel like you hear about the numbers in like this exaggerated kind of space, like, oh, this many people got coronavirus, or this many unvaccinated people now is the new number that they tote. And it's like, okay, I just want to go back outside for real.
Yeah. And not like outside. I just want to go outside and be okay if I forgot my mask.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times I have gotten all the way to my destination and been like, I'm gonna go home, guys.
Totally forgot my mask.
And it took me 20 minutes to get here, but I have to go back.
But we do have today's conversation was an interesting one for you. We're gonna get into our feel good vibe of the day. This one it's an interesting one because Bermudian artists are coming in hot. Like my boy, Mr. Photogenic says, I love when he says that. Even though I feel like that's like definitely one like a Bermudian term, but he says it just feel like
coming in hot.
Coming in hot. Bricks the artist recently celebrated her solo return and she dropped a video for her track Balenciaga. I do want to get the audience's thoughts on this. I'm gonna play a quick snippet. If you haven't seen the video, that's okay. We're just gonna play a quick snippet because it gets a little. Some of y'all might
love it.
Might feel away, but we're gonna only play like not even 20 seconds.
Got Balenciaga, everybody wanna holler, only care about the dollar, it's the truth. Cause I'm popping like a soda, BDA to Minnesota, pull a nigga shit on off like a tooth. Everybody throwing shade, rumors getting overplayed, young nigga getting paid in the booth. If you knew me, you don't know me, you don't like me, you could blow me, I'ma stay up on your necks like a noose.
All right, so that is Balenciaga, or a portion of Balenciaga from Bricks the Artist. Jack, what are your thoughts on that song as we wrap up?
I love it. I mean, maybe I'm being biased because Bricks is one of my friends, but knowing her story and knowing that, okay, in Bermuda, we don't celebrate our people until after they've already made it, and she's trying to make it, and she's doing a fantastic job. Like, her music is always dope, and a lot of people don't support her, but she's gonna. I can't wait for her to make it, honestly.
And she talks about it in that song, so we will drop the link to the video so that you can get to listen to the lyrics, because we did share just a quick snippet, and I think one of the things that she did mention was that, you know, she's gonna stay up on the next like a noose, and although that has like, you know, somewhat of a negative connotation to it, I think her intent is for people to just, you know, pay her attention, and in a positive way. Don't focus on her negative or the negative that surrounds her, because I feel like when we focus on the negative, it can get a little bit sticky. It can keep people in a space that they don't want to be in. So we just want to remind you to continue to support local artists, whether you run up the streams on any one of the platforms that they are. If you follow them on social media, engage with their content, let them know your thoughts, give them your feedback, good and bad. Make sure that you let them know that you are behind them as much as you can be. And we do want to thank you for watching this episode of Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. We trust we'll see you tomorrow for another feel-good conversation. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.